Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a huge claim that's been making the rounds that India has suddenly become a global superpower in Bitcoin. So, our job today is pretty simple. We're going to separate the hype from what's really happening on the ground. So, let's just get right to it. Is India a Bitcoin superpower? This whole idea really comes from one single headline-grabbing number. There's this estimate going around that suggests India holds the second largest amount of Bitcoin in the entire world, just behind the US. But, is that even real? The figure they're throwing out there is, well, it's staggering. $120 billion. If that were true, it would mean Indian investors hold nearly 1 million coins. That's over 5% of the entire global supply of Bitcoin. Wow. As this quote kind of puts it, that number, it sounds almost too big to be true. And to be clear, there's no hard data on the blockchain to confirm it. But, and this is the important part, the buzz itself, the fact that we're even talking about this, it points to something really fascinating. More and more people in India are taking Bitcoin seriously. It's moving from the edges right into the mainstream. Okay, so if we can't really confirm that $120 billion number, what can we confirm? Let's look at what the actual data tells us. The ground truth about crypto adoption in India. Well, one of the most respected reports in this whole space comes from a company called Chainalysis, and their Global Crypto Adoption Index, which measures real grassroots activity, has a really clear verdict. India is officially #1 in the world. This isn't hype. This is based on real, measurable usage. And other estimates seem to back this up. Some data suggests that over 90 million Indians, that's about 8% of the entire population, now owns some kind of cryptocurrency. The numbers clearly show a country that is genuinely curious and is actively jumping in. So, this is where the story gets really, really interesting, because it's not just about how many people are buying crypto, it's about who is buying and maybe more importantly, why. And what we're actually seeing is this kind of split reality, a tale of two very different types of investors. On one hand, you have the crowd. We're talking about this incredibly wide base of millions of retail users, many of them just experimenting. But on the other hand, you have the capital, and this is where most of the actual money, the real value, is concentrated, right in the hands of a very, very small group of investors. Now, check this out. This data from just one Indian exchange shows this divide perfectly. Get this, nearly half of all trading volume comes from just 3,500 users. These aren't casual buyers. We're talking high net worth individuals, family offices, and institutions. So yeah, the crowd is large, but the capital is clearly somewhere else. So, this brings us to our first investor profile, the serious high net worth strategist. These are the people with significant capital, and let me tell you, their approach to Bitcoin is completely different from the average buyer. For them, Bitcoin is not some lottery ticket. It's a calculated, strategic part of what they call an alpha-seeking portfolio. That just means they're looking for returns that can beat the regular market. So they're making a relatively small allocation, maybe 1 to 5% of their net worth, into what they see as a high-upside, globally traded asset. Their mindset is fundamentally different. They aren't just asking, hey, how high can this thing go? They're asking a much more sophisticated question, like you see here. What percentage of my wealth should I strategically place in this growing global financial network? It's all about positioning, not just pure speculation. And, of course, they have huge advantages. These investors, they have access to global financial advisors, they can invest in products like Bitcoin ETFs abroad, and frankly, they have surplus cash that they need to put to work. They understand things like network effects, and they're making a calculated bet on it. Okay, so let's shift gears now and talk about the other side of the story, the average retail investor. For the millions of others who are participating, the experience is one of high curiosity clashing with some pretty significant friction. So while interest among everyday Indians is just surging, they run into a major roadblock almost immediately, especially if they try to invest any serious amount of money. And this is it, the tax rate. Any gains you make from crypto are taxed at over 30%. For a retail investor who's hoping to make a meaningful return, that's a massive hurdle. It acts as this powerful disincentive, right? It discourages large investments, and it kind of keeps crypto in the realm of a small side bet, not a core financial strategy. This popular piece of advice really captures the whole retail mindset perfectly. It's not about a strategic allocation of wealth. It's a much more casual, why not kind of experiment with money you can afford to part with. It's about smart experimentation, not deep financial commitment. So after looking at the hype, the real data, and these two very different investors, what's the real signal? When we put these two stories together, what do we actually learn? The big picture is this. Yes, absolutely, Indians are getting into Bitcoin. That adoption is real and it's growing. But the conviction is very skewed. The serious capital is highly concentrated right at the top, while the broader retail base is driven way more by curiosity. The intent behind buying is really mixed. And this brings us to what I think is the most important takeaway. Forget the unverified claims for just a moment. The real, undeniable signal here is that India's serious investing class, the people with the capital and the strategic outlook, are no longer ignoring Bitcoin. They are officially in the game. So this leaves us with a fascinating, forward-looking question. The momentum is clearly there, but where does it all go from here? Will big institutions finally decide to step in? Will the policymakers change the rules of the game? Or will it be the millions of retail investors just continuing to push forward one small experiment at a time? The next chapter of India's Bitcoin story, well, it's yet to be written.